Well, welcome to another lesson in math class. Today we're going to add and subtract fractions that don't have the same kind of denominators. In other words, unlike denominators. Up until now, we've been doing them with the same denominator, so it was easy enough. You just add across the top or subtract across the top and copy the denominator. Well, now the denominators are different, so that means our fractions are split up into different size pieces, so we can't just add and subtract them. And I'm going to show you a couple of three different methods. The first one you're not going to want to use, but it's to just visually give you an understanding of what we're doing here and why we can't just add and subtract. First one is to give you this visual model of two rectangles adding 3/4 to 1/5. If you notice that the rectangles, they may look a little different as far as size goes, but they are the same size. So from here to here is the same as from here to here. But this one's broken up into 4 pieces, and we're using 3 of them, okay? So that's why the 3/4. This one's broken up into 5. And we're adding those two amounts together, and you can't just add them and know what you have because you don't have a whole. As you can see, tacking it on the end here, we're not quite to the whole, all right? But we don't know for sure unless we break them both up in the same number of pieces. In order to do that, with them broken up right now into 5s and 4s, we would need to break the whole thing up, each of them, into 20 pieces. Then we know that this comes out to 15 pieces. This one comes out to 4 pieces. When you add that together, that's 19 out of the 20. Okay, so hopefully that visual gives you a little bit of an understanding of why we can't just blindly add them all over the place, okay? Now, I'm going to show you 2 other methods. The first one I'm going to show you is the one that we use just to get beginners started and help them to understand how to do this and find just a shortcut, and it's fine to use. And in this class, I'm happy to have you use this if this is the one you want to use. Later on in high school, this might not be one that you use, and certainly if you go on to a real algebra class, you're probably not going to want to keep doing this, but it'll at least get you started and it'll get you through our class. We're using what's called the butterfly method. So you've seen a version of this when we were comparing fractions. What we're going to do, oops, I went too far with my, there we go, I went too far. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a butterfly with our 2 fractions. Now let me get my pen back. Apparently I lost that somewhere along the way. Here we go. So I'm going to write down our 3/4. There we go. 3/4 plus 1/5. This is going to be a really sad looking butterfly, by the way. And we're going to do the usual, here's the wings, okay, that you saw before, going both ways across. Oops, I almost missed that one. All right, but we're going to also draw a little more. We're going to draw a set of antennae, and we're going to give our butterfly a tail. And the reason for all of these is the antenna is where we're going to put our multiplication answers. So we got our 5 times 3. Okay, I'm going to try and keep going in that same direction of multiplying up. Okay, so this is the direction we're going. 5 times 3, 15. 4 times 1, which is 4. And we're going to add those. So this addition is actually up here too. Okay, these across the top get added. 19. Now, on the bottom, for our tail, we're going to multiply. So I don't know. I'm not sure where most teachers put it. I've put it here. I put it down here. It really doesn't matter. So this is our tail, and we're going to multiply our 2 and get 20. And that's it. You copy your 20. And that's all there is to it. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Well, that's the way you're going to do it. You can do it in this class, and you can do it moving on. The normal way to do it is using the least common denominator. And common denominator just means we're using a denominator on the bottom. The denominator is in common. They have it in common. They're not different anymore. So as we've seen in the last 2 ways of doing this, the least common denominator is 20. One of the fastest ways to get a common denominator is just multiply these 2 numbers. The bases, okay, the denominators. Just multiply them. That'll give you a common denominator. It might not be the least, meaning the smallest one, but it will give you a common denominator. And that's what the butterfly method does. If you think about it, using the least saves you work on the other end at the very end. You don't have to simplify as much, but the examples I'm going to show you today, it doesn't matter. So what we do is we copy down the problem. And of course, I've told you before, I like to do it vertically. Then we decide what number multiplying times the 4, in this case, will give me that 20, which is our denominator we're going for, okay? We multiply it by 5. So I'm multiplying both the 3 and the 4 by 5. So this I'm multiplying by 5. Remember what I'm circling here, though? These are just multiplying by 1, okay? To get this 5 to be a 20, I'm going to multiply by 4. I do the same to the top. Always do the same thing to the top of your fractions. When we do that, there's our equivalent fractions over here. Remember, 15/20 is equivalent to 3/4. All right. Then we add them. So first, we write the problem. We rename it using a common denominator or the least common denominator, if you can figure out what that is, but at least have a common denominator. And then we add them and get our answer. All right. There is your problem. See how you do. Now, subtracting is the exact same process, okay? The first method I want to show you, I'll show you visually using the model. Again, we can't just subtract out this 1/6 from the 3/5. They are different sizes. We don't know for sure, so we're going to break up these into 30 pieces. Notice, the way I find a least common denominator is I'll take the biggest number and I'll count by it until I find a number that the smaller one can go into. But in this case, again, multiplying the 5 and the 6 gives us 30. That actually is the least common denominator. So when we write out a rectangle with 30 pieces, this one, the blue one, 3/5, would have used 15 of them. Okay, the 1/6, it would have used 5 of them, not 15 of them. Yeah, 15 of them. I was right the first time. Okay, this one you would have used 5 of them, so we would subtract them from each other. Wait, no, I'm doing that wrong again. 5 here, 6, 18 of them. Silly me. 3 times 6 is 18. You'll see this in a minute on the other two methods. So when we subtract them, we end up with this really odd amount left, 13/30ths. That's a very strange fraction, but that's what we get. Okay, so now I'm going to show it to you using the butterfly method. So in this case, we leave it horizontal again, 3/5 minus 1/6. All right, and draw our butterfly. See if I can do a better job this time. Probably not, since I'm really pitiful at this. Give our antenna and our tail. All right, so we've got 6 times 3, 18. 5 times 1, 5. Use our subtraction here, okay? 18 minus 5 is 13. And down here, we're going to multiply. 5 times 6 gives us 30, which is our denominator. We just copy it. So once again, butterfly method does work. And in this case, we didn't have to simplify. All right, now the least common denominator method. Again, like I said, if I'm coming up with the least common denominator, I'll count by 6s here until I find a number that 5 can go into. It just so happens multiplying straight across 5 times 6 is our smallest common denominator. So it's the very same method. Write the problem down. I like to do it vertically. Rename it using the least common denominator, which is 30 as we found before. And subtract. Get our answer, 13/30ths. So no matter which way you choose to do it, you can get the right answer. Some may seem easier to you than others. Now, number 2, try this out on your own. Okay, now a real-world example here is use a table to find the fraction of adopted dogs in one town that are either golden retrievers or mixed breed. So let's take a look at our chart. You can see all the different kinds of dogs we have. We have golden retrievers are right here. I'm going to circle it. And mixed breeds are down here. So it says which that are either. So that means we're going to add those fractions together. So we want to add the 7/25 and the 2/5, but our denominators are different. So we're going to find the least common denominator. Now, you could do the whole multiply 25 times 5 deal. That would give us a pretty big number, and then we're going to have to simplify later. But if you recognize that 5 goes into 25, we don't have to do that. We can use 25. So what we can do is we're going to write our problem like we did before. Okay, recognize that the 25, the one with the denominator 25, we don't need to change it. So we're going to just, we don't even have to think about multiplying by 1. Just copy it. All right. The other one, we got to multiply the bottom by 5, the denominator by 5 to get 25. So we're going to multiply the top by 20 or by 5. And now we have 7/25 and 10/25. So we will add them together and get our answer. There it is, 17/25. So 17 out of the 25 animals that were adopted are either golden retrievers or mixed breeds. Okay, so there's a real world example. Now I've got a delicious real world example for you to figure out. Ice cream always comes back to food, always. Now, one more problem for you before we're finished. That's it. Add and subtract fractions. I'm going to have you practice, but that's all of it. Well, till next time, we will multiply and divide fractions. I can tell you, multiplying is very easy. Dividing, not too bad either. See you next time.